I'm back for the second half of Race Tensions in America Boil Part 2. We're going to continue watching this Asmondgold TV video, A New Race War Just Started. So, let's see if we can finish this one up.
People don't listen? Yeah, there's no silver bullet, but there's like 5 silver bullets or 10. Your assumption is wrong. Most police departments were not defunded. What happened is that many policing departments stopped policing in protest. Hiring more cops doesn't fix that. Okay, well then figure out why they're protesting and what they want.
We already talked about this in the first video,
like
so I would direct you to the first part of this video if you want a little bit more context.
That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
The whole police situation and the ghetto situation.
And now it's no longer about right or wrong anymore. It's about defending your group because it feels like our dignity and self-worth is on the line. So we react, we generalize, we moralize, we snap back, not because it's wise, but because it feels like survival. And when that sense of threat runs deep enough, people will justify almost anything to protect themselves. This is why we're now seeing people go so far as to openly defend violence and racism. And the real problem in all of this chaos
is... yeah, of course they're doing that. Obviously they're doing that.
This. Most of us feel like we're stuck between
That's
two
a very human thing to do, right?
And get streamlined by attacks on a race, or strike back and slowly become what we hate. Part of why we feel so stuck is because we're constantly being pulled by outrage and often only seeing one side of the story.
That's what mainstream media. That's what mainstream media does. Very few people will give the commentary that I'm giving right now. I think you have your heart in the right place, but I think it's also naive to say that there's no systematic problem in the U.S. institutions. Well, I'm going to ask you, like, a question. Can you give me an example of a systematic problem? Give me an example of a systematic problem. Everyone talks about how the media foments this racial divide. They do, but they only discuss it from one direction. They discuss how the media only makes black people look good, or how the media only makes white people look good, or vice versa. And so that's the...
I think the problem is when we're constantly just being shown negativity, and it's always racial negativity, one race hurting another, that's fueling the fire, right? But when you're talking about a systemic problem in institutions, I don't believe that this exists. I don't think that there is a systemic problem. In fact, to the contrary, universities and different job titles using things like DEI to back it will actually hire different races, people of color, women to fill their positions for diversity's sake, not because these people have earned the positions. It's just because of the color of their skin. So I think that there is a lot of problems, systemic problems, I suppose you could call them, but it's the opposite, right? It's the racism that we're actually choosing people with darker skin or women, not because of their earned right to be there, but because of who they are. That is wrong, right?
It's completely one-dimensional. It's that they provide half of what they should be saying without providing the other half. So, like, give me an example of something. Voter suppression, for example.
How is there voter suppression? Explain that. The only argument that I've heard to this is when you hear people complaining that in black neighborhoods, they require IDs. And that's suggesting that black voters are not intelligent enough to get IDs. In fact, a driver's license is a form of ID, correct? And black people do drive, even in the ghetto, correct? They have driver's license. So, yeah, I don't know exactly how there's voter suppression. There isn't. There isn't, obviously.
What do you mean? Wait, what? How do you mean voter suppression? What do you mean by that, voter suppression? You're not going to make the argument that black people don't know how to get an ID, are you?
Exactly.
Please don't make that argument.
That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Oh, now he's quiet. Uh-oh. I mean, is this gonna... I mean, like, we gotta move on, man. Let's get this going, right? I mean, you're gonna argue in chat. That's fine, but like, you've got to have an example of like what you mean by this, right?
Right. So I think a lot of arguments can be quelled pretty darn quickly if the person, before even making the argument, makes it to themselves internally first and thinks about what would the possible pushback for this argument be, and what is a logical, proof, fact-based argument that I can make in return, right? that actually makes some sense. Not just rhetoric that I've heard other people say, but actually understanding the issue that I'm talking about and how can I actually explain it, right? And I think a lot of arguments would be stopped before they even came out when people realize that they don't fully understand what they're saying.
I'll give it like 1 or 2 more, like 20 more seconds or so, and then I want to move on.
From my
And,
experience, people usually,
Once
once they're faced with logic, they usually just fall off.
What do you call it?
Block you, fall
Black
off.
people spend more time in jail for committing the same crimes as white counterparts. Yeah, but that's I think that's a socioeconomic problem. Black households have a median income of 56,000 and white households have a median income of 89. Like, this is a huge amount, and that's median, right? So like, you're not counting like the super extremes. That's not the point. There are studies that suggest black people in poorer neighborhoods are 80% doing drive-through voting. I don't understand, like, this is, I don't even get, like, that's...
If they're doing drive-through voting, how is that suppressing?
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just move on.
We have Ground News as the sponsor of today's video. Ground News gathers articles from over 50,000 sources and shows you how they're being covered across the political spectrum, letting you see the full
it's not
picture.
even a point.
For example,
Like,
when it comes to the fundraiser for Carmelo Anthony, over 94 sources have covered it
by
already.
the way, so they have an ID because they're driving? Yeah, because you need a driver's license to drive? Uh-huh. Yeah.
And out of those, 37% of them are right-leaning and only 15% are left-leaning. And just take a look at how the bias is coming out and how they're reporting it. The right frames it as his parents being rewarded with $445,000 for his violence, while the left frames it as Carmelo raising the money to go into hiding after receiving so many death threats. The bias couldn't be more clear.
It's obvious.
And I also love the blind spot feed, which highlights how stories are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. For example, out of 34 sources, 0%, that's right, 0% of left-leaning sources have covered the fact that Planned Parenthood's annual report shows a rise in public funding and abortions, which is a massive...
Or it's 0% on both sides if it's about that group in Pakistan that split off.
Blind spot. So Ground News has become a
I don't know
valuable
about
tool
that.
for me, especially
Could be
as a
that
Christian
too.
seeking truth and integrity in media. And if you want to try Ground News today, go to groundnews.com/whatdoyoumeme to get...
I wish I had the time to be better educated on a lot of these subjects, but I cannot sit and stream for 8 hours straight. I've got so much going on in my life. I literally watch what I can. I research what I can. I talk as fairly and as unbiased as I possibly can. I do the best I can for everyone, but I feel bad when I'm uneducated about subjects like this that's mentioned. I can't see everything.
40% off of unlimited access to the Vantage
Balochistan?
plan.
Yep.
So thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring this video. And
There's
now
just
back
so
to
much
why
going
outrage
on.
feels like it's the only option left and what it's quietly doing to us. So people are striking back at racism with more racism, more threats of violence, and more moral compromise, letting their character erode in the name of defending themselves in this race war. But if this is war, then what exactly does victory look like? Is it raising more money for your side, destroying the other person's reputation, or getting them fired? And will any of that actually force the other side to back down? Political voices have trained us to get louder, and we're rewarded for doing so with callousness or cruelty. They tell us that this is the only option left, that we tried to turn the other cheek, but it doesn't work because the other side is just too evil and wants us eliminated so that way they could destroy the country.
You hear this all the time.
But here's the catch. The more that we take their advice, the worse things get. The more that we scream, the less anyone listens. The more we retaliate, the more emboldened our enemies become. The more immoral that we act and justify it as a necessary evil, the more morally confused everyone gets. Just take a look around. Outrage isn't fixing anything. It's just creating new villains. And besides, yelling at people and shaming them won't change their mind anyway. In psychology, it's called psychological reactance, shows how aggressive tactics like shaming or yelling usually make people less likely to change their mind.
Absolutely.
Wow, what a surprise. Screaming and yelling and bullying people doesn't get them to agree with you. I would have never guessed that.
Pretty sure we learned that in kindergarten, right?
Not more. So as the
Crazy,
cycle of
right?
reactiveness continues to grow, nobody feels more seen. Nobody feels more heard. No one feels more healed, and no one's desiring more peace because the problem isn't just a reaction. It's what we used to feel righteous, what we cling to when we feel unseen. It's about something that I call value makers. You see, we've all been distracted by these surface debates. But if you've ever thought, why does everything feel so personal now? Well, this is why. We as humans are painfully insecure. We're constantly searching for ways to feel more valuable, whether it's through success, intelligence, fitness.
That's why identity politics is so popular. It's because it's personal.
relationships, beliefs, or even morality. The things that we subconsciously depend on to justify our sense of self-worth are what we can call value makers. We all have them, and they're usually good things.
I try to live by a system that's pretty simple, right? I have my politics and I have my opinions. And yes, I'm on this platform and I'm talking about my opinions. And you have the freedom to either listen to me or to completely ignore me, right? I'm not forcing anybody to listen to my opinions, and I'm not attacking anybody in particular. Um, I'm not trying to harm anyone else. Mostly, I try to mind my business and live my life, right? And as long as nobody personally gets involved in my personal life, right? I don't expect anything out of anyone. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and everyone can mind their business like I am trying to mind mine in my personal life, right? Um, the problem comes when people start putting their self-worth into what they're reading online and to what they're hearing, these stories that are going on that really do not affect their personal life in any way. At the end of the day, they can come home and they can be with their families and their friends. They can talk about anything that's going on, but it doesn't directly affect them a lot of times. So I think that if people are able to just kind of separate a lot of the craziness that's out there and not make it their entire identity, their politics should not be their identity. Um, at the end of the day, you can have your opinion, but you can also just mind your business, right?
But they become dangerous when we treat them as foundational to who we are. We're
Exactly.
constantly going to these value makers to tell us why we matter, and the easiest way to feel more valuable without even having to do anything is to look down on others who don't have what you believe
Yep.
makes you
Right.
valuable.
Money or
Think about
whatever.
And I am a big proponent for Christianity and religion, and I'm pretty sure this video is going to get there later, because at the beginning of the video in part one, he talks about Christianity and how we can help those during this race tension and not make it worse as Christians. So I'm pretty sure he's going to touch on that more, right? Um, but I think that that is a big problem in religion when religious people get extreme in churches and in other parts of the world, in different situations. When they're talking about religion, it's always one group looking down on another because of they don't measure up, they don't follow the same thing we do. They're not doing what they need to do, what the preacher said to do, so therefore we're going to judge them and look down on them. But the Bible tells us that we need to not judge others, right? We need to take care of ourselves, take care of who we can take care of, our neighbors, be compassionate to others, and let God judge and deal with the others who in their hearts have not decided to do the right thing. So I think if everybody follows that a little bit more and stops being so nosy into other people's lives, it will help a lot of situations, religious or racial.
Whatever.
If you're in shape, you'll feel better about yourself if you choose to look down on those who aren't in shape.
Stop eating! That's why you're fat!
In politics, we tell ourselves
Yep.
things like, I'm valuable because I'm on the right team, because I have the truth, because I'm more moral
The
than
right
they
side
are.
of history.
But when our
Yep.
identity is built on these things, we start seeing others as less because it helps us feel like we're more. And this habit,
Right.
it becomes like a drug. We need more and more
That's
of it to
that's
keep
dangerous.
our self-esteem intact. And today, one of the most powerful and fastest growing value makers is our racial or political tribe. It works because
Yep.
it promises instant meaning, instant moral clarity, and a ready-made enemy to look down on.
Right.
So
It's an easy way to immediately define a problem without having to think about it. And people appreciate that. They like that a lot.
And when you
No,
get rid of
I think they call it a
religion,
tribe.
what
No,
do you
that's
have
what
left?
it is. Yeah, he's totally he's completely right.
Politics, race.
once you understand that, you start to see how racism and so much of the online outrage today isn't just about hate. It's about people desperately trying to feel valuable.
Yeah,
through
people
their
have to
tribe.
have
The only
something.
problem is when your race or your group becomes your ultimate value maker, every insult to that group feels like a threat to the very foundation of who you are. That's why people go to extremes. Why they defend the
Well,
indefensible.
it's the logic of if it can happen to them, it can happen to you.
Yeah.
Because it feels
And it's
like
a
they're
slippery slope, right? With anything in life that you believe in, no matter what it is, right? People have this tendency to go down a dark path with anything and become extreme. They get too into it. They take it too personally. Everything in life is a balance.
defending their very identity.
Yep.
But like virtually every other value maker, seeking comfort in your tribal identity won't make you more secure in who you are, but only more insecure. You'll crumble when your side loses, when your group gets mocked, when you don't feel affirmed. And when your identity is built on something that fragile, you'll always be on edge, always defensive.
I think that if you build your identity on something that you didn't earn, you're always going to have problems, and you will have issues just down the line with like 50 different things. And so what you're
See, Asmongold is not religious. When you build your identity on something that you earn, he says. But if you do that, you're setting yourself up for future possible failure, because just like with me in my past, and I'm sure everyone goes through a time like this sometime in their life where whatever they've built up, whatever they feel like they have, can just be stripped out from underneath of them, and then they lose their identity. Who are they, right? So that's where religion can really come in and help you kind of stick to core values no matter what happens in your life, right? You can try to see the good and be the good in the world. And that's why, when done right, religion is a really good thing. Christianity is a very good thing. It's dangerous when humans put all of their stock into anything worldly, anything that is below God, really, because anything below God is just a failing structure, right? It's not perfect. God is supposed to be perfect, right?
You're really seeing in these cases is that people that are defining themselves on things that they can't control and they don't have any ownership of.
You can't control
the
anything.
only people that do that are
Okay.
losers.
He's saying that anyone who puts their stock in anything that they can't control, but in this life, you can't control anything. Anything can happen. You can do everything right every day and still unjustly and unfairly have your life stripped out from underneath of you. You can lose your house in a fire. You can get laid off from work, even though you've never missed a day in 30 years. Anything could happen to you at any time. So you're not a loser, right? That doesn't... That's misguided. I don't know what to say to somebody like this who is so anti-religion. It is not my place, I suppose, to judge or anything like that. But I would just say to Asmongold or anybody else like him that you can find a lot of peace and security in your life if you move forward with a purpose, and if you make Jesus that purpose in your life, it can really help you in a lot of hard times that are sure to come in every single life.
Losers and retards that don't have anything else going for them. So they take pride in things that they had no control over.
Always reactive. And today, everyone has a little bit of snowflake in them.
And then look at them. Snowflakes.
So I hope you can see by now, this isn't about politics or outrage. Fundamentally, it's about misplaced identity. And now that we see the real battlefield, maybe
I think a lot of this misplaced identity, like this guy's talking about it from a Christian angle, and I think he's going to go there, but if he doesn't, I will. I think that people have replaced religion with identity politics and political dogma. And in place of religion, you see people embracing these types of extremist ideals, and they adhere to them in the same way that people adhere to religion.
finally stop fighting the wrong war and actually fix the problem. The problem isn't that we have value makers, it's that they become so foundational to our identity when they were never intended to be. They can't fully affirm your self-worth because they were never designed to. And as Christians, out of everyone, we should know this because of the gospel. You know that you truly internalize the gospel when you can know in your heart that Jesus didn't just die for you, he died for the very people who hate you, the people that you can't stand, the absolute worst racists in the world. You know that you've internalized the gospel if you know that, while also knowing that you're no more deserving of salvation than they are.
Right.
And if that feels unjust when you look at them, it's because it is. It is unfair for him to offer them salvation. But it's also true when they look at you and believe that it's unfair for him to offer you salvation as well.
It's like the prodigal son.
You and your worst
Right.
enemy are valuable
No
because you were
human, no matter what, should be doing the judging, right? God is supposed to do the judging. That's just the way it is. Humans are going to be biased to whatever they believe in, and that's always going to lead to war and condemnation, right? So it is how it is, and we have to leave it up to a higher power for something like that.
loved enough for the God of the universe to die for you. And not because you earned it, not
But
because
these
you
are all
deserve
good
it,
lessons.
but only because he offered both of you his grace. And this is why the gospel takes away the illusion of self-superiority. If you truly believe in the message of salvation, then how could you possibly look down on the other team or feel superior to them because you found Jesus and you're
Right.
saved? The truth is, you can't.
All
And
you can
that's the
do,
kind of value
all you can do is control yourself, internalize what's going on around you. You can't control what everyone else is doing, but you can control your reaction to it. You do what you believe is right. You have your personal relationship with Jesus, and you just leave everything else up to God himself, right? You don't take it upon yourself, right?
maker that changes everything. It frees you from needing to win the argument just to feel okay. It frees
Right.
you from the cycle of outrage because your value isn't up for debate anymore.
I think this is a like religion is like one component, and like if religion works for him, I think that's really good, and that's great for him, right? I know a lot of people that religion is an ordering force in their life, and it improves their life. But I think it's like just a general kind of trend towards like cultural nihilism, and a degree where people just simply don't have any form of identity other than what they make up for themselves. And people have been divorced from like the tradition of their culture. They've been divorced from the religion of their culture. And
Right. I don't think that anyone should force religion on anyone else. That is up to the individual to choose. And I don't think it's up to anyone to judge or condemn anyone. Like I said, make the materials available, like they are. Let whoever choose what they choose and do what they do, and God will handle the rest. That's my belief. That's what I think. Um, I think that in a society standpoint, though, when you're moving forward, right, our Constitution was written with Christianity and fairness in mind, liberty for all, one nation under God. I feel like we need to move forward with those same structures of fairness and the same morality in our society. Now, if somebody wants to live outside of that morality, that's okay, as long as they don't do anything in public that causes other people distress, right? That is disrespectful or disregards other people's morality. Um, I think where there is a problem is when a lot of people make decisions, and then they publicly go out and do these shows of disrespect to morality in public, right, as a form of defiance. And that is one of the big things that a lot of people are doing now. It's like, how defiant can we get to show that we don't like Christianity, and how much can we push the envelope? And we see that with pride parades and sexualized content in those parades, and kids involved, and drag queens going to schools. I think that's very immoral, and I think that when you have this kind of behavior, it creates cultures around that behavior. People grow up in it, seeing it, and not knowing that it's wrong. And it is harmful to the soul, and it's harmful to all those around who see it, right?
they're kind of treated as this interchangeable business unit of like of a commodity, and I think that that's just not what people are. Well, I'm saying we're going to be a great ride. Yeah, killing people for using the wrong calendar. Well, there's obviously, I mean, like, the thing is that, I mean, you can look at any value system, like, you're going to have people that take it to an extreme and are crazy.
You don't
It's
have
not
to
special.
defend your race like your worth depends on it. You don't
Yeah.
have to drag the other side down just to lift yourself up. Your identity is no longer built on the tribe, it's built on the cross. So yes, fight for justice, but don't fight like the world. Don't cling to your tribe like it's your salvation. It's not. This
Right.
whole world and all of these worldly titles
When
cause
humans
division
cling
are
to
fading
anything
away.
other than
Jesus didn't die
God,
to save your race. He
bad
died to
things
save
happen.
your soul.
I mean,
So-
this is religion, but I think the real problem is the government. The government not adhering to the law and not enforcing the law accurately and treating people fairly is what causes these race wars.
right, that's one component that causes race wars, absolutely. And religion doesn't necessarily cause race wars at all. But he's not suggesting that religion causes race wars. The man making this video is basically just saying that we can use religion in a way that can help people stop fighting, right? When they don't have to see other people saying things about their race and making them feel bad. That doesn't attack them personally. That doesn't quantify their value, right? That's all he's saying. It allows people, if presented to people in a fair and kind way, religion is an out that allows people to have self-worth without attacking others, even if others are attacking them.
That's what really causes it to happen. Because I mean, the fact
These
is,
are
like,
two
religion
different
helps,
issues.
but I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people in like the Middle East, for example, are religious and they've been fighting each other forever. So like, it's not like religion solves the problem of like
Their
war,
moralities
right?
are skewed,
because in
right?
a lot of cases, there's the spiritual and the
Middle Eastern religion, the morality compass is skewed quite a bit. So what they believe to be right is not morally right. It's just it's not good. So yeah, I have a lot of examples of this. I have different memes and things, but I don't have anything readily available to show you. But you know, they promote things like rape and murder and killing infidels and anyone who's not like them. So the Middle Eastern religion, Muslims they're rooted in a lot of violence and hatred. So
then there's the material, where like a lot of these like wars that are fought on spiritual grounds are also about land.
Speak the truth.
You see what I'm
but
saying?
Do it from a place of peace, not panic. From grace, not ego. From a secure identity, not a fragile one.
yeah,
Because in
Christianity
Christ,
is
you
all
were
about
fully known
peace.
and fully loved. You were worth dying for, and not because you had the right views or anything good that you've done, but because of who He is. And when that's your foundation, you can finally stop fighting for your value because it was already secured at the cross. Hey, thanks so
That's
much.
what I've always felt like with me, right? Is that's why I don't really like I don't spend a lot of time like people like insult me or like they'll get mad at me or like be hostile to me. Is that like I don't really think that it matters what those people say, because like my own personal value is what really matters the most. And so like if I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm satisfied with what I'm doing, then other people's perspective on it doesn't really make a difference.
Well, I'm going to leave you guys with that. That is an interesting way to conclude this video. And let me know in the comments what you guys think about this whole subject, right? Watch part 1, go back and see that if you want a little bit more context to some of the things that we started, looking at the beginning of this video. So yeah, I think that religion does play a big part in people's identities, self-worth, and morality, but it is not a fix to racial issues. Government fairness and rules implemented and unilaterally carried out are really what are going to help people heal from racial tensions. But religion is also something that can help a lot, right? So yeah, I'm gonna say bye for now, and I will see you next time.